everyone, and welcome to episode 127 of the Sonic Talk podcast. I am your host, Knuckles87, and with me today are Shigs and GX. Not doing anything stupid this time.
Not doing anything stupid? Are you kidding me? So
Yeah,
No, he didn't interrupt us individually.
so hey, I've got something to pitch for you guys today.
Don't be stupid.
No. Never. That is never something I would ever pitch. So,
Good.
okay. So you know Puyo Puyo, the puzzle game series, right?
Yeah,
You know how
it's the third best puzzle game ever made after Columns and Sega Sonic Brothers.
if that's how you would like to think of it, by all means. So a couple years ago, they kind of released this like stripped down version of the kind of stuff they built up for the Puyo Puyo Tetris games. They called it Puyo Puyo Champions. It's effectively like a basic, simple version of it, just for like, hey, if you want to have a tournament or a competition or just play or practice, like, here's a super cheap version to do that. It basically reuses all the core assets, but we've made it very affordable. So,
Okay.
how much would you pay for that?
Oh, this is LRG. I don't know. I'm not even a huge Puyo Puyo fan, so $20.
Okay, but what if it came with a 12 by 16 double-sided poster, a soundtrack, and a Genesis-style case that says limited run on the spine?
$30.
That's right, $65. With a copy of the game. So you had started it saying like, oh, I'd pay $20 for the game. The game's $10 regularly, digitally, on all platforms. It is on Steam sale right now for like $2.50. This game. And limited run is basically putting it up for, I mean, after shipping, it's gonna be like $75 for this $2 game. And the stuff that they throw in with it is like $1 Genesis case, a sound.
Well, remember, this is a $2.50 digital release. But once you start slapping that thing on like a cartridge, you gotta add at least like $10-$20 to it.
Okay. But what if they have a PC version that you could buy that comes with a Steam code and no cartridge?
I mean, like, I don't know. I guess you're a moron then.
There's literally like everything in here is just okay. Here's a plastic case and a soundtrack, and everything else is just printed paper, and they're charging you $65 for it.
BX, this is why I don't bother with the physical stuff anymore. It's because it has to be more expensive than the cheap.
No, it's not that it has to be more expensive. It's that LRG's a massive boondoggle.
Yeah, like LRG just takes the issues with physical and amplifies them 1,000-fold because it says, what if physical, but also a collectible?
Like this is them looking at like, I don't know, what
expensive for no reason.
What I don't know, what'll Sega let us get away with? Well, Sega doesn't care if we do something incredibly stupid. They're selling this game for $2. What do they care? It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. I don't know, like,
if they wanted to at least we make an argument for digital.
Sure do.
If they wanted to at least get my attention, they could have like included like, I don't know, some little Puyo Puyo plastic figurines.
Yeah,
or
look,
like
yeah,
look. Puyo plushie. But I guess paper is so boring, especially for $65.
Like, look, hey, if you wanna like sell me a big dumb Puyo Puyo statue of whatever, like then maybe we can talk. Like I could maybe see a 75 or a $65 statue, and hey, we'll throw our $10 game in there for you, but dear lord.
And it's funny that you bring this up because as you probably remember, I just bought something from LRG. The first time I bought anything from them since like 2019 when I got Axiom Verge on the Wii U.
Oh god,
Uh,
dare I ask, what did you buy from them?
oh, you don't know? Okay, I got the Sega Astrocade Mini for
Oh,
$33.
okay, yeah, that's right.
I
You
have
did.
one of those too.
I paid significantly more from it. It was the first and only
Yes.
thing I've ever bought from LRG.
Like, to give you an idea of how cheap I am about this stuff, $33 was the okay, I think I'm going to consider it now price for me. Now,
To
that doesn't include shipping, which was another like 13, but regardless.
to express how much I am enthusiastic about the aesthetics of the Astro City, I bought it full price at LRG and then had to get an aftermarket base and chair for it, which probably doubled the price.
I might look into that if it's like not too expensive,
It's too
but
expensive.
my basic plan for this is it's gonna sit right next to my other mini consoles in my bedroom, with on my nightstand. I guess like cleared off and organized and stuff to fit all these little mini consoles there. And so it's
Oh,
gonna sit right next to them. I'm gonna hook up to the TV. I'm gonna stick like an 8-bit retro controller in there. 8-bit Duke wireless
yeah.
controller in the back of it.
I thought they were called 8-bit dough.
I don't know. I can barely get all the words out.
I just even on something as cool as that, they still manage to f it up and say we localize the games in here, which is fascinating because there are a lot of games that never left Japan in that collection, games that are full Japanese. And it turns out, oh no, we need to clarify this. We localized the packaging. It's
Ah.
like freaking limited run. Dear
But
God.
luckily most of those games are pretty English friendly anyway.
Yeah, most
So
of them are great. Like no, I adore the aesthetics of the Astro Mini. I love the way that cabinet looks and just the aesthetics of like it's the kind of thing where it represents my everything I have sort of come to understand about what a Japanese arcade looks like, because even the ones that are not specifically Astro City, that like when I think of, hey, I've seen an arcade in anime or in other Japanese video, like that is the style of arcade cabinet I
Or
see.
when you go to Round One or something.
Exactly. And they have all those Neo Geo stand-up cabinets. It's like,
I think that was the kind of cabinet Sega Sonic Arcade was in.
yeah, in Japan it was. Which is funny because that's an up to 3-player game. But the Astro City cabinets themselves only ever had up to 2 controls. So,
Uh,
but yeah, that's my nonsense for the week.
okay, I did not know that this was going to be a segment.
It's slowly
Um,
become a segment over the over the weeks, over
it's
the
because it gets
episodes.
let you talk.
Hey, I don't know. Someone's got to start the show with something. Break the ice.
Um, okay, so hello GX, hello Shigs. Shigs, what have you been playing lately?
I've been playing more of Monster Hunter Wilds, which is quite different from World and some of the other ones, because I realized when I'm first playing it that the first 22 hours is the most linear Monster Hunter has ever been.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing it, normally when I'm playing Monster Hunter, it starts out, it's about you, the hunter, and your little Palico or whatever sidekick to decide to give you in this one. And you start off with a village, and you're there for a while hunting different monsters, helping out with the ecosystem and that. And it's because it's a very open world like that, you tend to stay around that area. You get clues on where the monster is and how to hunt it down and everything. And then you're
Hmm.
going after it. Here, it's mostly about this little boy from a far off village who got chased off by a monster's some of his villagers.
Hey, Shigs.
Yeah.
You actually had played some of this last week, and you have already talked about the intro parts of it.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I
I'm just
remember this.
what I'm trying to say is so the thing I've noticed is instead of being so open world from the get-go, it's like you're going from village to village, and only doing one or two monsters. You can, stay at that area and build up your armor, but you don't really need to because it's fairly easy for the main story quest. So it feels like, and plus the fact that you have once you jump on you to your secret, your little chocobo guy, you could just tap up and it'll automatically follow to where the next monster is or the next monster location. And sometimes after you kill a monster, there's a cutscene and then you're going right for another monster. So it felt very linear in that sense for Monster Hunter Wilds, which I've never experienced before. I beat the game after 22 hours, and I've never, except for maybe Monster Hunter 3, I've never really beaten Monster Hunter because I enjoy just going out, hunting the monsters, grinding for better armor to fight stronger monsters without really having to worry about the story, where this is very story focused, and it's only after the credits roll that the after game starts, and that's when it really feels like it opens up to a regular Monster Hunter game. So I found that quite odd because I am not used to that in a Monster Hunter game where it feels like it's pulling you in a certain direction to go through instead of just, you being more open world and just doing what you want.
So I'm guessing you couldn't just like start the regular Monster Hunter stuff early. That stuff doesn't start until
Well, I mean, you can
credits.
kind of, but it kind of pulls you to keep going where you're going from village to village, but you can if you want to just stop, do some quests to fight some of the monsters that you've already fought to build up your armor. But like I said, the game's easy enough. You only and it gives you enough armor pieces. You don't really have to worry too much about that. One of the positives that I've noticed this time around is you can pause the game if you're playing single player online. You can pause the game even during a fight, which has never been done before, I don't think, or else I don't remember it being done before. And you could pause during cutscenes. What was the other thing?
Do you feel significantly different about it from when it had
I
started?
still like World better because this is too much quality of life improvement over the other ones. It feels like it's just too easy, and I kind of enjoyed the grind of repeating monster fights to build my armor and adding more pieces to make me feel stronger. Where this, it doesn't really encourage that so much as it's pulling you through the story. But like I said, once you finish the story, like 22 hours in, then the game opens up and you're finding brand new monsters still. So it feels almost like an expansion pack at that point. So that's the one good thing about it. Is if you wanted something with a story mode and then something where it's more open and to the kind of thing you like, then
Do you feel like it's trying something that fighting games often do, where the story mode is the thing to kind of teach you how to actually play the game, after which get unleashed to play it for real?
kind of. It is kind of nice that pretty much you're sticking with your same group of characters throughout the whole thing. Like you got Alma, your quest giver. Your Smithy is this really cute blonde Gemma. She's in that through the whole thing. You have another hunter with you, Olivia, and some other people. So it's not like when you go into a land and you see some of the people in town, you don't really bother to know their names or anything because they're just, oh, here's another person that I'll see one just like that in another village a few hours in. This time your group stays with you and you get to know your characters. So if you're looking for a Monster Hunter that's more story based and a little bit more linear, I wouldn't say fully linear. I mean, like I said, you can do what you want
Then this is
during each
then this is the part
village
where
thing, but
then this is the
it
part where you
does feel
recommend
shorter.
Monster Hunter stories, right?
Maybe Monster Hunter. Well, that's super linear compared to this. Um, so yeah, that's probably my final notes on Monster Hunter Wilds. I'm not used to beating that game really as much as far as the story mode goes, and I haven't really beaten it because, like I said, once you're done, there's this big after story that you're starting, but that one's more open ended than what you first start out with. The other one is the latest in the WWE games. I've been a wrestling fan since I was a little kid, so even though some of the owners have been extremely horrible people, um, I've always liked watching wrestling, and there's quite a few of the wrestlers that are actually, really decent people. And then there's like Logan Paul, who I can't believe is in the WWE. Good lord. Um, but this is the latest in the WWE 2K25 series. They have been improving year after year since they've relaunched the. They took like 2 years off for that franchise, and then
Tell
once
tell
they relaunched, improved quite a bit.
tell me the state of the hair tech.
AirTech's a lot better. The new thing this season is called the Island, which I guess is based off like when Paul Heyman calls anybody who's going to wrestle Roman Reigns the Island of Revelancy or whatever. And it's this open lobby little area you can walk around with. There's other people walking around. You can challenge them to matches, or you could just follow the story where Roman Reigns gives you a prize if you end up getting through this whole
Wait a minute,
story
wait a
thing.
minute, wait a
It
minute.
is
Did WWE make a make a Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth or a Yakuza Pirates in Hawaii?
no, nothing like
Okay.
that. It's like their
That's too
city
bad.
mode, and that was in NBA 2K25, which is
It, al-
very small.
it
It's
almost
a
sounds like
small
you're
open world.
describing the Street
It's
Fighter
close.
story
It's
mode.
closer. Yes, it's closer to a Street Fighter 6 open lobby, or the Dragon Ball Fighter Z open lobby, but with a little story thing added to it. And my problem with it is it's one of those things where they have microtransactions where if you don't do these certain missions, you can't get these extra points to buy for your character. And what's the problem is you're now creating two characters. You're creating a character for this mode in the called the Island, and then you've got your regular My Rise mode, which is your story mode, and you're doing a completely created character there who has their own story, and so it makes that island thing feel completely useless. And it seems like it's more of a money grab where they want your money so you can get more costumes and you can open up these special wrestler themed arenas like Undertaker's arena or
I'm
Rey Mysterio's arena.
I'm kind of surprised that they haven't gone full on EA Sports build your
Well,
team mode or something.
they have those kind of things. They have, besides that, there's My Faction where you can buy these packs of playing cards
Oh
where
boy.
you get certain wrestlers and they can get certain bonuses, and you can open up create a character options early and stuff, or unlock certain types of wrestlers. Like they have these plastic Mattel action figure characters that you can use as a wrestler. Uh, but yeah, that was it is total microtransaction. That's practically a free to play area. But thankfully, it's off to the side because the things I enjoy are the My Rise, the story mode, regular universe where it's just you choose any wrestler of your choice to go through kind of a not a story mode, but kind of just a little quest thing. And then there's GM manager mode, which I really like, where you are basically in charge of one of the two or one of several different WWE shows, and you're trying to book the show properly to get an audience your ratings up, get the good money for your particular promotion, and so you're doing all the booking, you're doing all the promotional stuff, and I actually really enjoy that mode. And it's pretty much the same as last year, except that there are some small improvements to how they've handled the wrestling in that, and the graphics engine. I do like the showcase mode this year. The showcase is where they usually highlight one wrestler, and you get to both watch and play through their career. Like last year was Cody Rhodes, and this year it's the Bloodline, which means it's not just Roman Reigns, the Usos, Solo Sikoa, and those. They go all the way back to Peter Maivia, the father of The Rock, and then you're doing Yokozuna, the Headhunters, all these people who are blood related, the Samoans, and so you're going through their history. And thank God they got rid of when you do these wrestling modes. Usually when they're showing the history of it, when you're taking part of the match will stop and actual video of that part of the match will come up. And
Now, okay, wait. When you say video, do you mean actual filming of whenever that wrestling production aired, or just like an
yes,
FMV
yes, yes.
cutscene?
Yeah, so like when the Cody Rhodes
that seems
happened,
weird. That would be really
it
off-putting.
was jarring, and it was jarring when they did this for 3 years, and it was always jarring where you'd be playing the match and doing these particular rules, so the match would come out just like it did back then. And what would happen, it was once you accomplish this one, there'd be these little mini missions during the match, and once you accomplish a mission, it would suddenly go to video and have a little bit of a video play before we go back to your portion that you can interact with. The problem with that is, one, it was jarring. Two, they had to constantly blur out stuff. Like if there was a really old 80s match, they had to blur out the WWF logo because they don't have the rights to that logo. They'd have to blur out some wrestlers' faces that they don't have the license to anymore, and it was a total pain. So thankfully, they took that out and just have the gameplay engine go through those particular cutscene moments, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. And the one thing I like is that they let you rewrite history, so the Bloodline members are always winning, even though they lost these certain moments in time. So you're getting you get to be Yokozuna beating up Hulk Hogan, defeating him, or the Head Shrinkers defeating the Rick Steiner and Scott Steiner. And Scott Steiner is such an ass. I'm glad I'd be glad to beat him up, and I can't stand Hulk Hogan in real life. He's a horrible.
You don't say. Is it the racism?
Yeah, so,
because for me, it would be the racism.
What's that? Hulk Hogan? Oh yeah, it's a horrible. The racism, the Trumpism, what have you. Yeah, it's very cool. You also play as people you don't realize or don't think about as bloodline, like Nia, female wrestler Nia Jax. She's a cousin of The Rock. And then there's the Usos, Roman Reigns, all the rest of them. So you're getting this whole generational family. You're playing through their history. So that's very interesting. That's the one thing I really like about these 2K ones is they have so many options for how you want to play the game. You could just have a regular multiplayer match. You can have there's a whole bunch of options for those matches, or you can have this My Rise story mode, the GM, the showcase, and all that. So
would you say these games are good now?
Oh, these games have been good for about 2 or 3 years now. It's just that,
okay.
like I said, during the Mike showcase, the video thing was always jarring.
I remember hearing these games were terrible, and then
I would the Xbox One and PS4 versions do not have the My Rise because it's like an always online thing, and I guess they don't think it's worth the servers. But in my opinion, that thing kind of sucks, so you don't really need it anyway. But yeah, that's my opinion on that for now.
All right, and GX, you've been playing some Sonic stuff for Sega Sonic Radio and other things.
I haven't been playing. Like I kind of fell off of Avowed for the time being, just for one reason or another, and I was hoping that, like, by now I would have a job and would be able to justify buying Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, and I'm still in the job hunt, and it's hard for me to justify that right now. So, I've been going back. I've been doing prep work for Sega Sonic Radio. I've been playing some Sonic games. So, first thing I guess I could talk about is I finished Sonic Dream Team.
Yay!
That game is okay. It's okay. It's fine. It feels like it feels like, hey, this is a couple steps removed from being like a really decent, solid game. But what I just kind of run into with it is the combination of structurally, do not care for it, what it's doing with, like, hey, go to a new stage, complete all these missions within the stage, continue on. Oh, you don't have enough orbs. Go back to past stages and get more orbs. And personally, I just kind of find that frustrating, and to the degree it slows down the games, especially when the requirements that they have on you feel kind of steep for what they want you to do. Like, they really want you to go back and sift through those stages over and over again for each of those missions in order to unlock later stages, which I guess if your goal is to stretch out the game, that's fine, but as someone just trying to play through the game, I just found it annoying. Like, I just found it to be a pain. I I it is a game that definitely feels, I put this. I think the most interesting times with it were when it was holding your hand a little bit less, and those times aren't very frequent. Um, Sometimes it would do so to let you choose different paths in order to take different routes, but I think the biggest criticism I have of it, though, is it seems to want to ask you, like, it seems to be asking you, like, okay, explore some of these spaces. And the spaces aren't interesting enough that I really want to explore them. The level design is kind of basic. It's not particularly well refined. It's not particularly interesting or innovative, which that kind of bugs me. It just doesn't feel like, hey, I am playing a platformer that is on par with other platformers that I really like. It feels like a mobile game, which I think is what I said at the beginning. It gets complicated later in the levels, and some of the I think if I'm going to compliment any of the subsequent missions in it, it's probably going to be any one where they make you play as a specific class of character, and completely and like rebuild some of the stage stuff around having to play as that character. The ways that it goes kind of nuts with the Knuckles stuff, with the Knuckles and Rouge stuff, or the Tails and Cream stuff, or even how it asks you eventually to start using the air dash for Sonic and Amy is something. It is something. It's the kind of thing that if the game was built around more of that, where I was using these characters' abilities more thoroughly, then that would be something that I think would be much more interesting than the way that they designed it, where it's like, it feels like I don't have to use anybody's ability. It feels like, hey, there's some optional paths, but the optional paths aren't particularly interesting, so why would I bother caring who I choose to play as? So, I don't know. It's fine if you have a Apple Arcade subscription, I still say, hey, you're gonna get it anyway. Like, I think, like, hey, if you already have the Apple TV or Apple Music subscription, I think there's some sort of big pack that comes with all of that stuff, and it's probably worth giving a shot. But I'm still kind of of the mindset that, like, if you're really upset that this game is not hitting whatever console you or PC you want it to hit, I'm just gonna tell you, you're really not missing as much as you think you are. It's fine, but it doesn't feel like a whole ass game. It feels like a slightly better than normal mobile game. So
Now, have you checked out the Tales challenges yet?
I think I played the tutorial of Shadow. I don't think I've really checked out the actual challenge stuff itself yet.
Okay, because that's how you like unlock new abilities and stuff.
I saw that they have this weird new ability system that I did not that was not there at the very beginning, but by and large, what I was seeing in there is like, you get more of this when you do this action, or you time goes in this way instead of that way, or this thing goes faster, and it's like, that's fine, but it's not really addressing the issues that I have with the game. So, is there really much motivation for me to engage with it? Probably not. I don't know. It's
Okay.
it's the kind of thing where it's like, it's getting hyped up by the people who like it, and I'm just sitting here and like, yeah, this is fine, but it doesn't feel like it's anything special. Like, I don't know why we're getting all up in arms or all up in support of it when it's like, yeah, this is like a B grade platformer. It's a perfectly satisfying B grade platformer, but it's not doing anything interesting or special that I would imagine gives it the kind of staying power to go back to it every day. I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. You know what game is also fine? You know what game is also
Uh,
fine?
Super Mario Sunshine.
Depends on who you ask. No, if I can get the thing to work right. Shadow Generations. I went back to Shadow Generations.
Yeah,
And
I watched some of that stream.
that is a game that is so the way I would describe Shadow Generations is that it is a very frictionless experience. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I guess.
I, I think what I'm running into with it is that like I have two, like I said, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I'm not as high on it as these bombastic reviews that it seems to be getting, that of the way in which most of the people on staff fell in absolute love with it. I'm just sitting here as like, yeah, it's okay. And I think where my sentiment for that is coming from is, number one, it feels a little too
Ooh.
frictionless. Like it feels. I had a complaint about Sonic Frontiers, and I think that complaint carries over into Shadow Generations, where a lot of what the level design is built around is grind this rail for a while and then do a homing attack on something and then continue to chain homing attacks, and sometimes you have to wait to do your homing attack because then you'll homing attack on a different thing and that will take you to a different path, and it just feels like that's all that Shadow Generations is. Like, you can maybe optimize, and I
I'll
understand.
be honest. I feel like you're just kind of describing the basics of any 3D Sonic game.
That's kind of
Yeah,
what I'm doing. Yeah, and
that's
as
true.
I was going through Shadow Generations, I was feeling that more and more as like, maybe I've just done this too much. That it's like I'm not seeing this gameplay evolve in any meaningful way. Like, it's getting smoother. They're finding ways to optimize this form of gameplay, but it doesn't feel like I'm platforming in the same way. Even Sonic Generations, in some of the cyberspace levels, it felt at least like they built some platforming around it for the most part. But like in the main world, in the in Shadow Generations, it just feels like it's the same stuff over and over again. It just it's the Taco Bell issue. It's like they only have 5 components that they could put together. A grind rail, a thing that you can homing attack, a one of those launchers that can either go forward or down based on what you do. A wall jump maybe in some of the games. Stuff that you can stop, and it's like, okay, we're going to build everything out of those core components. And sometimes those core components will look slightly different, but they all react the same way. And I don't feel like Shadow Generations does anything particularly interesting about that. Like, the only stages that I feel any sort of meaningful feelings about are ones that have something that's a little bit more distinct about them, and most of the stages do. Like the Rail Canyon. Is it called Rail Canyon? Something like
Yeah,
that.
I'm pretty sure.
Uh, the way that you have the junctions, that's fine. I think Sonic Heroes had better use of them than Shadow Generations does. I think that it had and for me to compliment Sonic Heroes in the face of a more modern Sonic game feels blasphemous, but yeah, it kind of felt like there were more interesting ideas on how to use that rail shifting mechanic in that game as opposed to Shadow Generations. Uh, I still kind of like the surfing mechanic. It feels satisfying for the most part. So a level that used a lot of that, i.e., Kingdom Valley, was pretty okay. But once I got to the 2D segments of it, I don't know. It's just kind of it just kind of felt like the same as everything else. And I mean, say what you will about Sonic Lost World and how Sonic Lost World controls or plays or is organized as a Sonic game, but it is a Sonic game that you had to engage with. Like, it's not a Sonic game where if you just or if you just let go of the controller, things will generally speaking continue. Which there's so much of that in Shadow Generations. There's so much just lengthy rail grinding and occasional like rail shifting, but it just feels like it continues to funnel you forward. I'd almost describe it as a racing game with platforming elements rather than a platforming game with racing elements. And I'm looking for a platformer. It's kind of why I still think the original Sonic Generations is a better game than Shadow Generations, or at least certainly a more interesting game than Shadow Generations. It's why I think Sonic Colors is one of the best 3D Sonic games. It's one of the reasons why the farther I get from the launch of Sonic Lost World, that I feel better and better about that game, because these are games that still feel like platformers and play like platformers and have mechanics like platformers, and Shadow Generations doesn't. And Sonic Frontiers is kind of a mess in other ways, but I don't know. I I kind of am struggling to see like the hype of why this hit with people and the way it did. And I don't know if it's just a
Well, to
generational
give you
thing,
an
but
idea, it's just I find the game to be plenty engaging. I like it better than the original Sonic Generations for the most part.
Yeah, I hate the 3D overworld map in Shadow, but I think the controls and some of the
oh, yeah, the controls the
the
controls in Shadow
controls
Generations
of
are
the map.
great. I just don't think the level design holds up. I don't think it has a lot of interesting ideas. And Sonic
But I kind of
I
Generations,
feel
can see
like
that.
anything I would say would just be rehashing old ground at this point.
I mean, I'm kind of rehashing old ground at this point as well. Like my assessment of Shadow Generations is like maybe I am done with this format of Sonic. Like, maybe I've experienced everything that they have if they don't seem to be pulling a lot of new ideas out of their pocket. Like I don't know, I don't know what to say about that. Like, it just feels like, hey, they made a slightly more refined version of the thing that they made before. Is it significantly different? Well, you can sometimes kick an enemy up in the air and launch them, but that's mostly just useful to let you slowly decide whether you want to take a top path or a bottom path, but I don't know. I don't know. It's just kind of, it's a downer is what it is. It's like, it's not that I want to, it's not that I want to say it's bad. It's just like, I need something to shake this franchise up. Like, I need them to actually try something a little bit different rather than, continue this thing that they're still doing. This format of
Well,
game.
you probably weren't going to get that from extra content from a
I
14-year-old game.
probably wasn't. I'm just feeling it harder.
I just want more and more polished boost gameplay, and that's what Shadow Generations provides to me. So I'm happy with it.
I can see where you're coming from. I mean, we've had boost gameplay for like 15 years now. It is starting to feel old to me, and they need to. I think they need to ramp things up a little better.
Let me put it this way. For all of my feelings about Sonic Unleashed and the way that Sonic Unleashed is just a mean-spirited game to me, I can at least sympathize to a degree with the people who like it within the specific context of Shadow Generations, because for as much as frictionless as Shadow Generations is, for as much as Shadow Generations just keeps pushing you forward and pushing you forward and pushing you forward, and if you do anything different, it's not like you take a dramatically different path. You just, you might cut a corner and shave some seconds off. Like, that's its vision of diverging paths. Sonic Unleashed is more along the lines of, no, you have to be good at this. You have to react to this. We're going to add, in a lot of cases, way too much friction for you. This is an all friction game. This is the hard version of this. And it's like, I don't want that, but I can kind of almost see how it's appealing in the face of some of these other boost games. That it feels like it's going for something a little bit crazier. I also I think the best way to exemplify this is I hadn't talked about it before, but I actually did go back and play all of the Final Horizon cyberspace levels, and I don't know if you remember our original discussion about them, but I bounced off of them hard whenever I first went in. Because the first one I went in was like, okay, do this very similar stage to the original version of it, except now you just have a bomb and there's some other crap to find. And my reaction to that was like, oh, this is boring and it sucks. I don't want to do this stage again or a harder version of this stage with just an extra bomb. But then you actually get to some of the more crazier way out there stuff where they're asking you to continuously launch yourself off of ramps and make these massive jumps that you continue and sustain. The one that I remember most vividly is, do you remember the crazy honeycomb stage in the
Yeah.
In Lost World?
No, in Sonic Frontiers Final Horizon.
Pretty sure, yeah. I love those stages. I played just all of them.
And do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember how just like open it was to have you try to get to cross these massive weird gaps that are covered in just holes and small areas, and be like, I don't know, figure a way, physics your way to get from here to there, however the heck you can. That's the kind of stuff.
If I remember correctly, yes. I remember. I think this was one of the ones where I died a lot, but I enjoyed figuring it out.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I was going back to footage of that and just remembering, like, what if the whole game was closer to this? What if we had a Sonic game that was like, I don't know, figure your way to the end of this thing rather than just do the roller coaster as best you can. That's
I feel
something
like
that
a whole game of that would probably annoy me.
maybe, but I'm also looking at this and thinking of like, that's what I like about Jet Set Radio. Like, when I think about what I like about Jet Set Radio, it's like, okay, how how do you get here? How do you get here safely? How do you get there to accomplish the thing that you know you need to do there? And how can you use the environment to do that? And Sonic Frontiers, the overworld of it, didn't feel like it had a lot of that, but some of those cyberspace stages felt like it was at least poking at that. Just not necessarily having the committed, no, this is the path you take the path. Do the path better. And more like, I don't know, get here somehow. And that's
Hmm.
that. Like when I think of stuff I played at Sage and have the most positive memories about, it's a lot of that stuff. It's a lot of like, figure out this environment more so than do this environment good. I like exploration and that kind of and an exploration of mechanics, an exploration of how those mechanics interact with the environment itself, because quite honestly, Shadow Generations vision of how mechanics interact with environment is extremely rote. You do a homing attack on a bunch of things until you have to move forward or jump from one grind to the other, and that's kind of the entirety of what that game is. Sometimes you have to launch a chaos spear or something, but it's mostly just asking you to like, hey, here's thing, interact in the correct way. Did you interact in the correct way? Good job. You may continue. Maybe you got some extra seconds shaved off, but it's kind of what that game is to me.
Hmm. All right. So, moving on to me. I have continued to make use of my Saru on my Sega Saturn. I've decided that the first game I've really decided to dig into is a game that I have been playing on and off for well over a decade now. The strategy game Dragon Force. So this is
Awesome game.
one of those classic Sega Saturn JRPGs, or uh, where it's like it's made by Sega, was localized here by Working Design.
Really quick,
Um,
you had cut off while on my feed, and since my feed is the one going out to Twitch, you're talking about Dragon Force. Just to be
oh,
entirely clear.
yeah, that's what I said. Saru Dragon
Like I
Force.
said, you got cut off. So,
Oh, I did.
yes, you did.
Oh, okay.
I didn't notice on
um,
my end.
well, yeah, but that's because the stream is different.
But the
Okay,
problem
but
is
yeah,
on my end, if I can't hear it, then Twitch stream can't hear it.
okay. So how much did you lose?
I lost the name of the game and I wanted to reiterate it.
Oh, okay. So I don't need to repeat that. I was playing it on my Saru. Okay. But anyway, okay. Sega RPG. Um, the basic the basic gameplay of this is you play one of 8 lords on this mystical JRPG continent of Legendaria, which is a very JRPG name for a continent. And you have like a few goals here. The first is you have to defeat the other 7 lords. Yeah, you have to like take over all of their castles, and you have to eventually prepare yourself and your armies for the final battle with the demon lord Madrick. I think that's what his name is. Uh, by by gathering these mystical artifacts from these 3 temples, and all while you're doing this kingdom management stuff. And it certainly like has does show its age if you play it in the year 2025, but as like just sort of a basic JRPG war simulator, I do find it to be very engaging.
So what is your like what how do you manage things in the battle? Do you have a direct control? Is it menu options?
It's very simple. So like so you have each battle is made up of two commanders and their army. An army can have a max size of 100 soldiers, and they can be one of several different units, including soldiers, samurai, cavalry, dragons, harpies, beastmen, and they each like have a kind of a some limited rock paper scissors against certain forces, against you typically one type of unit will be very strong against one or two other types, and then very weak against one or two other types, and then be kind of just have no weakness or strength the against the rest. And you can organize them into various different kinds of formations. You can have them stand their ground or advance or move into the foreground or the background to like do a raid that targets the commander. Or you can just like hit melee, which removes your ability to do any commands and just sends your army swarming against the enemy like a massive army of ants.
Yeah,
That is
I'm looking at this and visually it's very striking.
yes. You got at the time it was really impressive because it's like it's this. Oh,
Yeah, you can have
it's like this.
of 2D characters on the screen
Yeah,
once.
like you can have like over 200 2D characters. You can throw spells, and do special abilities from your commanders, which can also affect the battle. So it, each commander has an MP gauge through which they can do various things. Like they can do attacks that will attack the army and the commander. They can do attacks that will affect enemy troops. They can do attacks that will affect your troops and their troops. Like there's this giant tornado move that will just decimate everything. Um, and that's the kind of thing you really only want to bust out if you are on the losing side of the battle. And once you and if you are unable to defeat the commander with your forces and both forces get wiped out, things kind of come to head in a automated duel, which through which will be determined by how much health each commander has and their relative strength. Like it is technically possible. I have done this for a level 3 commander to take out like a level 40 commander if the level 40 commander was made weak enough through your forces, which is something I have done a few times recently because I'm in the end game right now. I'm getting swarmed by these dragon men from the mountains, and I have all these like samurai units that are pretty low, that are pretty low level, but are still able to take out all of his forces and do a lot of damage to him, allowing me to kind of deal the final blow with my commander. Um, so like the battle part is definitely the fun the best part of the game for me, and like you can send your commanders out, deploy them in armies of 5 commanders. You can keep up to 10 commanders in each castle, and of course if you want to keep an enemy force from taking over your castle, you have to make sure that you have enough forces along all the right castles from where you might get attacked. And at the end of each turn, which is measured with an hourglass, you then get to deal with domestic affairs. And that is where the game does kind of get a little tedious at times, especially in the late game if you've been ignoring domestic affairs like I did. Because that is where domestic affairs is where you do things like you fortify your castles and you award your generals with things literally called awards, which which increases the number of units a general can have. You can allow a commander to command different units through by giving them a special thing that lets them that unlocks that for them, and you can also give them special weapons and items and stuff that can give them an edge on the battlefield, like special swords or armor or shields. And I've got to imagine if you did this properly, like when you had like 10 or 20 commanders, it's all much more manageable. But by the late game, you will have over 110 commanders. Unless you lost a bunch of them to like battles and stuff, because the non-essential ones can die. um, and so yeah, so like it's a very fun but very simplistic console-oriented strategy game. Certainly something I recommend. There is a sequel, Dragon Force 2, which I do plan on playing once I have beaten this at least once, although I'm tempted to go back. Because my current save file, which is with the Samurai Mikal, I started like back when I first got the game, and man, must have been like 2010, 2009. I don't know. It's been a while. And I do want to add that there are like a bunch of side quests and stuff that you can pursue if you want to. Oh, and also one other thing, another reason why you want to not ignore domestic affairs is you can also get new items by having your commanders search your castles. And by doing that, you can like find various weapons and statues that will upgrade your commander's health or magic. And on rare occasions, if you've had a commander who has deserted you, because they do technically each have a disposition, and if you do not take care of them well enough, they will leave you. But like you can find them just hiding out in one of the castles, and then they'll just either come back to you or be your prisoner. And one other final aspect about domestic is that that is also how you recruit the commanders that you've captured. Because once you defeat a bunch of commanders, you take them prisoner, and you can like talk to them, and it's kind of like a dice roll whether or not they will join your side. Most typically will. Some will take a few tries, and a small handful just will always tell you to f off. Thankfully, it's never like an important one. It's always just like a small handful that just hates one particular lord for whatever reason.
So does this come off as more like a you have to make is it mostly a strategy slash tactics game where it's more about what you build up, or is it more about the moment to moment, what am I doing right this second, and is it moving towards my aims?
I mean, I would say that both are equally important here. Because you do need to take the time to build up your forces and to not leave any of your commanders high and dry. But also, like the action can move so quickly that you do need to be in a position where you are able to respond to things hastily. Especially when like sometimes like a new side quest will just appear out of nowhere, and you've got to deal with it. Like near the end game, I got attacked by a giant robot from space that has been getting built up throughout a good chunk of the game's plotline. Um, and the only way I could actually beat him is by getting all three of the mystical items that I need for the end game. But right, like around the same time that thing showed up, one of my castles also got taken over by this evil dark lord, um, was who I defeated a few turns earlier. And I like literal, and these things like appear like right next to each other, and I had like a castle right between them, and I eventually just had to allow allow the forces there to just get captured, defeated and captured because they just had nowhere to go and just kept running from one evil occupied castle to the other after the robot arrived. It was I don't think that's something that would normally happen. I think that was like just kind of an unlucky thing, but I don't know. A lot of things in this game can happen. Things can happen in this game very quickly, and sometimes you just gotta deal with it.
I hear there's another
um,
game that you've been playing where things happen very quickly.
yeah, so Sonic Unleashed Recompiled. I did indeed get it working on my Steam Deck, and I have been playing it.
How
And
hard is that to get work out on the Steam Deck?
it is easy as pie.
I've
I
heard
did
from multiple people on staff. It's like, no, this is seamless. Like you can just do this and it works.
like the most difficult thing about this is just getting the files. But once you have them, it's easy as hell.
It,
Like
it sounds like it's easy to work. It sounds like it's easy to mod. It sounds like everything in it is an incredibly seamless experience.
and like I did a video on our YouTube that just shows how you do the entire Steam Deck installation. Not counting where you get the downloads, obviously. This is a game you can still buy that is very clearly piracy. If like even though I do technically own the game twice over,
Well,
digitally and physically.
it depends. I don't know. Maybe you could back up your own games. Like there's some
Oh,
people.
see, if you want to like get off your own hard drive, that's the complicated process.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely, but you can do it.
Um, but anyway, so the daytime stages I do still just absolutely adore. Oh crap! Sorry. Okay. I
Great. Great.
sorry. I hit I hit my headphone cord while I was gesticulating.
Good
I think
work.
that's the right term. Is it? Am I still sounding good?
You are now louder than you were before, but
Oh,
I will
oh
adjust that
crap.
on my end.
Well, give me a second. I'm gonna because I hear myself
I will.
too.
Okay.
All right.
Everyone else
Okay.
enjoy
Am I
the
better?
trailer. You're fine. Just keep going.
Okay.
I don't want to just keep going.
All right, well, I adjusted something. I guess want to know if that fixed anything.
We don't edit this. Just keep going, for
Okay,
Christ's sake.
all right. I'm going. God, you're grumpy. Okay. So Sonic Unleashed. So okay. So I still love the daytime stages. So far, I have played up through Shamar. I'm about to get to Empire City, but I'm trying to like get a couple of get a couple of videos recorded for Sonic Steam. That has slowed me down a bit, but like I still just really enjoy the level design. I enjoy the look of the game. I enjoy everything. Does play a bit more smoothly now versus on 360. Like
I would hope
I
that would be
definitely
the big point of it.
I definitely do still notice a bit of frame rate jank, but
Well, especially on your Steam Deck. Like your Steam Deck's
yeah,
good, but it's not going to be perfect.
I mean, sure, but this is also an Xbox 360 game we're talking about here. Like Steam Deck can run that in sleep. But regardless, like just some minor frame rate issues. I went and I decided there are like two areas in this game where frame rate tanks. I've gotten to one, that's the Empire City Hub. Empire City Hub works fine, so that's good. So it's not a frame ratey bad mess anymore, which I always found inexplicable because that is not a very complex or large hub world. It is literally a circle around a fountain. So that was just bad like programming on Sonic Team's part. But
Well,
anyway,
let's not forget, it did not run good on 360. It ran on 360, but it did not run particularly well on 360.
yes, true. And honestly, I think a lot of that is probably has to do with like lighting effects and stuff. Because a lot of people are commenting on, "Oh, this looks so much better than Sonic Generations, and look at how good the lighting is." And I'm like, man, you know what? That's probably why this game ran like crap compared to Sonic Generations.
Oh,
They probably
Sonic
didn't
Generations
optimize it
was not
properly.
nearly as ambitious, but boy, was it better optimized.
But yeah, so all of the boosting still feels very good. I'm really enjoying running through Shunan, Apatos. Uh, Shamar is a little weird because it's like it throws like a lot of walls at you in a way that doesn't feel very fluid, and like you can just like run into characters and stuff, like just regular NPCs just acting as just obstacles for some reason. But like uh, uh, Missouri, that still feels great.
I think
Like
my memories are a lot. Well, I have two core memories here. Is like one of them's Chunon, where it would just have the pick the right rail, and if you pick the wrong rail, it will bounce you backwards. Uh,
that like might be Adabass.
it Adabat had like Adabat is late game here, so a
I'm
lot of
sorry, not
nonsense
Adabat.
happened.
I meant to say Shamar. Adabat. That is the one I'm kind of dreading a bit
Shamar
because
has some, but I specifically remember like some stuff in Chunan where it's very much like choose the right path or we will bounce you back or kill you, or hey, have a weird water running section where if you get it wrong, oh, you died.
Well, I definitely do remember the water running stuff, but that's never given me many issues. But anyway, so like yeah, daytime stage is still as fun as ever for me. Werehog, about as mixed as ever for me. Like, but my views on this have not changed; they have just been
Oh,
refined. Like,
I
I
mean,
now see why Werehog could get very grating for me. Um, because like now, so like in 2008, my only real context for Werehog was like the first God of War, maybe like, and maybe some PS2 era beat 'em ups. And so it's like I knew enough to know that Werehog was a bit primitive and simplistic for a beat 'em up in 2008, but I did not yet have the context of Bayonetta and Batman Arkham Asylum, where it's like, okay, these are modern HD beat 'em ups.
Oh, I actually
Like this
have to
is,
think about how I handle this scenario.
I mean, like we're home. I'm not gonna say you don't. I'm not gonna be all like GX Rice. I'm gonna say you don't need strategy. You do need like
You
like
you need to learn what
I
combos.
benefited.
Yeah, you need to
I
learn what
benefited from
combos are
learning which combos to
effective
use.
in scenarios. Like I'm not going to say no strategy, but I am going to say if you want to go in with no strategy, the game's not going to give you that much friction for it. The only time until it does, in which case it gets
Until you encounter one of those goddamn giant wasps
the
in
frickin' bees
Shunan.
are miserable in this game because number
oh
one,
god, yes.
you can't meaningfully attack them yet. They want you to throw things at them, and most of your attacks aren't very effective. Like you're not always gonna just have stuff to throw, and trying to grab opponents is
I don't tend to bother
slow
throwing things
and a
at them.
pain.
I just try to hit them. But it's like because this game needs a lock on. For one, it needs a
Yes,
lock on
it
where you can
does.
lock on to enemies, and then you can have some direction on where you can hit them. Like that. This is something that like Kingdom Hearts knew to do. um this is something that like Bayonetta really helps with its fluid combat, is just being able to just focus on an enemy and to quickly switch between which enemy you're focusing on. And so it's like instead of just swatting at a wasp and missing it because the damn thing decided to just randomly fly upwards for a second, you can get like you can just I can just like lock onto it, jump at it, and then swat. That's what I want to be able to freaking do. But like so there's that. But there's also the I I in my original when I originally played Sonic Unleashed back in '08, I didn't really bother using the block button too much or the dodging that much. That's probably one reason why certain like combat scenarios might give me more trouble. But even when you do use them, it doesn't really help that much, and it's very archaic. Like because you don't have a lock on, you don't really have any direction when you're dodging. So it's like you get just like dodge, you just try to avoid attacks, but it doesn't feel very smooth. It doesn't feel very conducive to combat or combos. Um, and like something that of course Bayonetta and Arkham Asylum did is like they they worked dodging and they worked like dodging and into their combat. So it's like, with the Arc and Knight, like you get a thing that's saying you're about to get hit, you dodge, then you can counter. Bayonetta, you dodge at the right time, you get witch time, then you can just leg into them with their combos, and the Werehog is absolutely nothing like that. And so it just kind of makes for a lesser beat 'em up experience. So
I
I got one thing I am working very hard to do is I am trying to do the combos much more often. I'm trying to like learn them a little better, use them more effectively, and that does help. But that can only do so much.
do you find that there is like reasonably a hey, it makes sense to use this combo in this time, and it makes more sense to use this combo in this time, or is it just like no, this is the best combo, just keep using this?
Um, well, I do use an early aerial combo that I get that you get early on, and that I can learn that I learn to do pretty quickly. I like to do that one a lot, especially when I'm like dealing with large enemies and aerial enemies, but not especially. Like when I'm like I usually just try to diversify when I'm pressing X versus when I'm pressing Y, because Y will of course get me stronger attacks. So it's like start off with one X or two X, then I hit the Ys, and that will usually get me a kind of combo that I want for more powerful enemies. Um, but like I so as of yet, I mostly just try to learn a few of the combos, and then I just kind of button match my way through the rest. I'm generally able to get my way to the ones I need that way. Um, but uh, and like another thing I do try to do now is I do try to like target the wizards. I try to target those goddamn wizards and those goddamn bees because they can be
Oh,
the
the
most
wizards
annoying. I
suck.
will
The wizards suck, and
Yes,
there's
and
so many in Shamar.
I'm about to
Oh
get to
yeah.
Shamar. I was hoping to do that before this in case I needed to complain about them
Like
more.
like there
But
there was the point in which we were having the Sonic Unleashed discussion in the Stadium Discord, and like you know how I feel. Everyone who has ever talked to me knows how I feel about Unleashed. And the one place where I got you to crack is like, yeah, but that frickin' part in Shamar with the frickin' wizards, and then you walk up the steps because you have to get the key, and then suddenly you're in B City and they throw in like 5 waves of enemies at you, and it's like,
oh
yeah, you know
god,
exactly where I'm talking about.
yes, the part of the game that gave me physical pain. I know that very well. um,
God,
like
that is such a pain.
Yeah, do you remember
like
that part too, Shigs? Do you remember
Yes,
that part too?
it's like
Yeah,
a never-ending wave of them. Even when you defeat the wizards, somehow
it's the
more
one
wizards.
part that like you can remember is like, okay, we all at least have I'm not crazy. We all at least have this collective PTSD of that one Shamar Plaza where you fight all the
Yes.
bees up the stairs.
so like but I do and like I have two major overarching issues with Werehog in general that I think one of which I don't think I would have recognized back then, but I recognize now because now I'm coming at this from more of a generalized beat 'em up uh, mindset. So the first thing is the grapple. I don't know if there's a way to like determine what kind of grapple you're gonna get, but as near as I can tell, it's completely random. And so it's like you can get the grapple that's the QTE one, you can get the grapple that you have to button mash, or sometimes you just grab the enemy. And there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to that for anything larger than those little dog things. Um and I hate that because it's like I hit the grapple. I think I'm gonna get the thing where I have to button mash, and instead it's a QTE, and the first command is an A, and I fail it, and I get a whole failing animation that I have to sit through while I lose a bunch of health. And I guess I hate that. I hate that so much. And the grapple, they really need to like the God of War, the God of Werehog, the God of War series does QTE so much better because it will just tell you when you are going to get one. It's like, like, hey, there's this QTE thing that you can do now. Press these two buttons. I do that. I do the little QTE. I know what's coming. I get it done. Boom. If I don't want to do the QTE and I want to do something else, I can do that. But at least I know it's there. And so like that really needs to be something that gets changed if they ever re-release this. Where they just need to be able to tell you what kind of grapple you're going to get, because otherwise I always have to be prepared for the QTE, and the other kinds of grapple are kind of useless to me. And the second thing, which is how the checkpoints are handled. My God, if there's any Sonic thing where they need to change how they did checkpoints, it was this.
They're so far apart.
They are so far apart, and you have to physically walk through them.
And you have limited lives.
And there's also that.
And it's very easy to die in the game.
Yes, although it's also very easy to just build up lives, which is something that I have been able to do very casually without doing much in the way of replays. Like, I think I'm at 30-something lives now somehow. I don't even know how I did it.
That's why I'm happy it's come to PC in this form, because they can mod the crap out of that. They can make it unlimited lives. Maybe have the
there is a better Werehog.
Have.
There's a better Werehog combat system mod that I need to check out. But anyway, so with of course with a normal beat 'em up, falling down a hole will not potentially set you back 5 minutes and 2 combat scenarios and a platforming segment. But this, I have died right before a checkpoint after doing a whole bunch of stuff, and I just accidentally fell off a thing and died in a hole, and I wanted to rip my hair out. Any normal beat 'em up, if you fall down a hole, worst case, it maybe puts you back on the platform with reduced health.
Yeah,
something.
There is no game that needs tail assist more than Sonic Unleashed. Sonic Colors didn't actually need it. Sonic Unleashed absolutely needs it.
Sonic Unleashed doesn't need tail assist. It needs a completely different checkpoint system. One that is constant. One that will checkpoint you after every single major challenge. So that if you die in a combat scenario, you do not have to do a whole other combat scenario and a whole other block pushing puzzle again.
Oh, the block pushing puzzles. I'm watching your footage of the block pushing puzzles right now and just remembering my God, these are so freaking slow. And if you die, you do them all over again.
And it's I don't mind the block pushing puzzles in and of themselves.
I can do this puzzle faster in a Zelda game.
But I do mind having to do it over and over again. Like Missouri, the final, there's this final section.
Let me recontextualize this based on the way that I'm watching, the place I'm watching the video at right now. How do you feel about doing them while one of the enemies is blasting you while you are pushing something and interrupting your push?
That was annoying. That's not a thing that normally happens, but it happened this time. It's there's an aerial enemy that gets you to a
It happens all the time I do this.
Well, it only happened to me once out of the 5 or 6 times I had to do it. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I think I at least tried to edit this video. I'm not sure if I was able to though. But anyway, but like yeah, like you can see my struggles there, and so it's like there's this massive wave of enemies at the end of Missouri, and like if you die to them, which is a thing you can very easily do because there's a lot of enemies in that wave, then you just get set back all the way to like before the prior enemy wave, and it's just so bad. But like, okay, so if they ever bring Werehog back, they need to just completely destroy the old checkpoint system and just have it be, hey, like we're doing checkpoints here. After every single freaking challenge
Well,
or battle,
they fundamentally
checkpoint.
like this is my argument against why you would basically why you would bring back Sonic Unleashed or do a port or something. And like my response to that is I can't see the audience that's growing up with Sonic now being accepting of the way that this game is designed. Like I get that there's a lot of people who grew up with this specific game in a certain era, but it's hard for me to look at like what it is and what it's doing and think like this is not a game that Sega would design today. They would design it in a very different way.
Like I've said, like I think Sonic Unleashed instead of like doing what Sega normally does and or has been doing, and like attaching some sort of new development to an old port, they need to focus on refining the game that is there
Give
for
it to
Unleashed.
RGG. That's how you make it. You give it to RGG.
Sure, like I should add another context I had at the time, but when I played this was Yakuza, the original Yakuza, and the combat and the Werehog combat is better than the first Yakuza.
Oh yeah, Yakuza got way like it got way better after after like Zero. After they
Yeah.
figured it out.
Well, I'd say it got way better after Yakuza 1. Like
Yeah,
Yakuza
also
2,
yeah,
3.
it's fair. It's fair. It's fair.
I mean like the original Yakuza is what I'm talking about. But anyway, but now that doesn't say I do still enjoy the Werehog a lot of the time. Like I do enjoy the combat for all its for all of its basic simplicity. When it doesn't get too grindy.
So
And
well let's contextualize this. You say you enjoy it is like, oh, I can have fun with this versus, oh, I actually would really prefer this type of like, are you putting this among the games that you would consider to be strong combat games, or is it just like, oh,
oh,
I can play this?
I like honestly, I'm just thinking about like I wouldn't put this in the tier of I honestly wouldn't put this in the tier of Bayonetta and Batman. It's like this is like a B tier combat game along the lines of I don't know some beat 'em ups I've enjoyed on.
I would put this beneath the Warriors games if I'm being honest. Like I would rather play a Warriors game than the Werehog stuff.
Like I don't know. I
You
guess
mean
I
like
would
Dynasty Warriors? Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
like a
Yeah.
Dynasty Warriors type of game. But I would
I
absolutely
like
say
those kind of games.
yeah, but I wouldn't necessarily. But I would, in all fairness, I would say, yeah, there's more to the Werehog than like Sonic Boom. Like Sonic Boom's a nothing game of absolutely nothing going on in it. It's absolutely 100% better than that. But
This is a game that I would have enjoyed playing at least somewhat if I just like bought it and was attached to some movie license or something, like that tier of game, not like top tier combat, but like B tier combat. One thing I do enjoy for this with this game though is I do really enjoy the exploration. And one thing I have been doing with every single Werehog level is I will explore the hell out of them, looking for all of the sun medals, looking for the records and the books and all that stuff. And it does kind of offer a nice change of pace from the boost stages in that regard. And it's often like I often have a lot of fun figuring out how to get to certain collectibles and doing the platforming challenges for certain collectibles, because I also enjoy the Werehog platforming most of the time. Like, the only time I think I've really ever hated the Werehog platforming so far in my current playthrough has been during Empire City's spiked beam segments.
Oh, the spike beams are trash. They were trash designed by a frickin' sociopath.
Like, that is
You
definitely
almost got a swear out of me there.
like, I don't think most of the game is. I don't think. Okay, sorry. Most of the daytime stages that I've played in the game are not designed that meanly. I'd say they don't really get that way until Empire City, maybe even Adabath.
Oh,
But
Adabat is miserable with that kind of crap. It doesn't have
yeah,
the balance beam, but it
like,
absolutely has, I don't know, get this perfect or you die.
but like when it comes to Warthog platforming, I don't think like the spiked beams are the first part where it's all like, yeah, this was designed by an arsehole. But yeah, so it's like I'm mostly enjoying the Werehog, but I have some major problems with it. Um, and I do think that the people who have kind of fooled themselves into thinking this is like top tier gameplay in a Sonic game need to, I don't know, reassess things somewhat, because it's like the daytime stages are fun, and I think most of them in the game are fun, but Werehog is a much more mixed experience. And another thing that I'm doing for the first time, one more thing that I've been doing for the first time in
Okay,
this is I've really been
come on.
engaging with the what's it called with the NPCs, which I talked to them a bit in the original, but in this one I'm talking to all of them, and I'm not even like I'm getting to like some stories and stuff and things that are happening with their lives, and it's kind of interesting. I didn't know that like the NPCs dialogue just changed frequently like that. But anyway, yeah. So that's all I gotta say about Sonic Unleashed.
That's good.
And I might.
I am certain we will have less to say about our news this week than we have to say about Sonic Unleashed.
Like, again, I almost wanted to just. I was suggesting the episode, doing the episode, because it's like, man, I could talk about Sonic Unleashed for an hour.
Okay, for a laugh, I went into the Game Banana mod page for this game just to see, as like, maybe someone actually built a camera mod that might make me not hate this game. And the second row that I am seeing down below is Werehog soap shoes, and now I just want to die.
Well, I guess the moment I'm able to do mods for this game, I'm getting that Hatsune Miku chef thing. We did a news story on that, which I did not stick in show notes, but that just looks fun. But so I can put sub shoes on my Werehog.
Yeah, apparently someone made it so that you
Ooh,
can, if for some reason you want to.
I gotta go do that. I gotta go do that. All right. So, we're moving on to what I guess is our the big news for this month,
I
and
hope
that is,
not.
I mean, it's a crossover, GX. It's
For
gonna
this
be the big
podcast.
news.
It is.
DCX Sonic issue 1, which for me is a very typical first issue for a crossover comic,
Which is to
you know,
say,
it's
it is
fine.
boring.
Yeah, it's just them meeting up with the Justice League. Darkseid's destroyed the Master Emerald and trying to get all the Chaos Emeralds to.
Seems the whole goal of this issue is just pretty blatantly, okay, let's get everyone who doesn't know DC and doesn't know Sonic up to speed on things. And unfortunately, that means that they are basically spending most of the issue on that.
I have one question though. Has Sonic's planet ever been named outside of when it was Mobius?
No, they explicitly do not name it.
They haven't named it Earth.
In this one, they called it Earth.
They haven't. This is the first time they've called it Earth since like
Sonic Adventure. Sonic Adventure 2.
Sometime in the 2000s. I'm not going to name the game. Could have been Sonic Unleashed. I don't know. But at least Sonic Adventure 2. Like that, I'm pretty sure they said Earth on that. But like, yeah, it's been a long ass while, and I am wondering if this is like something they did specifically for the DC crossover, or if this is the new status quo. I kind of hope it is, because calling it Sonic's World is boring as hell. um, so the basic premise of this issue is Darkseid invades Earth, Sonic's Earth,
He
with
wants
this
them
new
Chaos Emeralds. He's
with
gonna
this
get the Chaos Emeralds. He has a
new
big.
cross-dimensional spaceship shaped like his face, and he is after the Chaos Emeralds.
Yep.
So he is invading the planet with his parademons, and he's also sending the son, whom he hates, out to get beaten up by Knuckles. And very standard like DC stuff.
Yep.
And
then they make the Sonics, and Sonic is like, "Oh, Flash, you're fast. Hey, you're also fast. Let's be competitive." And Tails is like, "Hey, you're a
Yes.
high-tech guy." And Cyborg is like, "Hey, you're also a high-tech guy.
Yeah,
Let's
they pretty
go
much
hang
paired
out."
up everybody.
No, it's not that they paired up. It's the same thing that every frickin', like, when you have no ideas for a crossover on how to actually make characters, interact, it's just like, hey, pair them up. Make them go, hey, it's the thing that we have in common.
It's the thing that you kind of got to do with your first crossover special. Like,
No, it's
gonna
not.
Yes, it is. If you're going to have Sonic meet the Justice League, of course he's going to have a competition.
That's not how
they. Flash.
Are you freaking kidding me? That's not how they did Mega Man. That is not how they did Mega Man.
Was like one character.
Yeah. Mega Man was one video game character. It was a completely different kind of thing.
But this is what I'm saying is like
and
they started.
Even then, like we still had Dr. Eggman.
Flash, of course, they're gonna race each other.
We still had Dr. Eggman with Dr. Wily.
I don't think you have to. I don't think you have to tell a bad story just because it's a crossover. I think you can build it.
You have to do the basics before you get into the larger story. You've got to have Sonic and Flash actually meet in the DC crossover. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you have to actually have them run side by side with each other for a page. That's the thing you have to do.
No, sure. But you don't have to be like, we're all gonna be friends and fight the big bad. No, you can build it up in such a way that they might not, that you could build conflict into the first issue of it. You don't have to have everyone jump in and get all buddy-buddy immediately and give each other a big ol' hug because they all have the same hobbies.
Neither Sonic's friends nor the Justice League are especially abrasive.
I don't know
what you were expecting here.
Like I read through at least part of the Batman Ninja Turtles crossover. That was a decent crossover. That actually had some story. I saw the movie.
That was a very good crossover, but there was also like a viable way for them to actually create a conflict between them.
Yeah, and you could.
This is the place where my parents died, Cream the Rabbit.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how you would do that with Sonic's furry blue friends and the Justice League.
Well, I can tell you how you don't do it, and it's the way that they did it. Like, this is just it's boring nothing.
Shigs, what are you trying to say?
Nothing. I was, mentioning that meme with this is the place where my parents died. Raphael, except those places.
I thought you were saying something important, Shigs.
Look, man. I don't know if you mean to say it this way, but it sounds like, well, there's no way we can't not have mediocrity. And I'm like, no, we could actually have a good story if there was
Sonic and Flash. I don't think Sonic meeting the Flash needs to be mediocre. I'm just saying, like, complaining about the simple fact that Sonic and Flash had an interaction.
No, I'm not complaining about the Sonic and the Flash having an interaction. I'm saying that interaction sucked. I'm saying that interaction sucked, and the story that they're telling in it is boring and rote and by the numbers in a way that I found insufferable. Or boring, I should say.
It's just a very basic by the numbers, meetup.
Yeah, okay, why am I spending $4 to read a by the numbers story?
Hopefully, by the second issue, there might be something more to it. But the way some of Ian's writing's been when it comes to this kind of thing, it doesn't always work too well. Plus, I noticed he's putting in a few phrases for copied phrases from the video game stuff.
Ian's doing the Ian thing.
I'm really get tired of that now. I'm getting really tired of hearing lines from the video game.
But anyway,
I enjoyed Shigs Darkside said the thing. He said the thing, Shigs. He said the line.
All right. Anyway.
Okay.
I enjoyed a few of the interactions, but yeah, like by and large, I do agree.
The only interaction I really enjoyed was the whole Batman thing about him. He knows what it's like, losing someone, and that's why he knows.
Yeah, that is the thing that got a lot of social media play, and I do agree with you there that was.
I like that. And I like that interaction. The rest of it's
but
just
not especially great.
I found it.
Flying in a car. I'm flying all by myself, and I got an invisible plane. I'm like, oh, okay,
that was the I thought Sonic and Flash were fine. It was the brief Amy and Wonder Woman thing that kind of got under my skin a little bit.
Well, it's the Silver interaction. It's like, okay, you did. It's like there's no substance here. Like, it doesn't feel like they're building up to something of substance. Maybe they are. I would like to think they are. But if this is the way that you're introducing it, I don't think you have to introduce it in such a way that basically it's this dull and rote and predictable. The fact that I could predict everything that happened in here, the fact that it just turned into, like, I guess we're going after Chaos Emeralds again? Like, it's just... Where is the effort? Where is the effort going into this? Where's the vision of a story of why we needed to cross over DC and Sonic other than, I don't know, money?
The problem with this is there's two different franchises that have to be delicately handled from two different companies.
You don't have to delicately handle Sonic. Have you seen the stuff that Paramount does?
I'm talking about, like, this is still, like, I'm sure Sega's.
Oh yeah, they have their
hands into this, and
they have their approval process.
Has to a certain way. Sonic has to act a certain way. So, there's that, and of course, this is primarily for kids, so they're keeping the story simple and everything. But it's just, I wasn't expecting too much from it. That's pretty much what I got. It's just mediocre.
And that's like you're describing how I feel. I just think I feel worse about it being as mediocre as it is.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that is our major point of divergence there. It's like I think like I said before, I think it's pretty obvious that this is that the main purpose of this comic book is just to get the people from two very different franchises up to speed on certain elements. And for someone like people like us who are pretty familiar with both franchises and also like 30-ish to 40-ish year old adults,
what person in media today is not familiar with Batman? Who doesn't know what Batman's thing is? We've been force-fed Batman for decades.
Batman and Superman got probably the briefest of summaries in here versus like Green Lantern and the Flash, who aren't as big with the mainstream crowd as Batman and Superman.
So yeah, they're explaining
don't get me started on Sonic. But anyway, so it's like, yeah, like coming at it from that perspective, I get why they went in that direction that they did. But yeah, it's a pretty boring direction so far. I am hoping that they do spice things up in the next 4 issues. Honestly,
say this between this and Sonic 77, I'm starting to see why people's issues with the Inflin now.
Took you that long.
All that, yeah.
He can't stop himself. He needs to reference things to make sure that you know that he knows all the Sonic. I like him, but it's really noticeable.
Honestly, the only thing that kind of bugged me a little bit was Darkseid's quote at the end. Uh,
Oh, that
Oh
was
yeah,
anyway,
that
I don't.
really bothered me.
that was
I really,
extremely say the line, Bart.
yes.
So, but I don't. Do we have much else to say?
I
Uh,
think I'm pretty much done with that.
the crossover will continue until morale improves.
Oh, she, then it could go on for a long time if GX has a major effect on the morale.
Dear God. Sitting,
GCX Sonic issue 43.
God, we're gonna have to actually write stories now. What are we gonna do? I don't know.
Ah,
It. I got exactly what I expected to get out of it, and that's the disappointing part. Like, there's
hmm.
nothing about this that I found impressive in the slightest, except for, the art's fine. The art's fine. Everyone looks like how they're supposed to look, but all of the scenes are exactly what you would expect from it. All of the character interactions are exactly what you would expect from it. It's like if I can read a comic and it's like I could come up with all of this in my head, then in my mind, that's a bad comic.
Hmm. Anyway, uh, moving on to
This is the free Spider-Man comic you get at the Pizza Hut kids meal
Oh,
kind
dear
of
God, you're right.
Friday.
That upsets me.
uh,
Lex Luthor's gonna steal all the snack cakes.
all
We need
right.
to
So moving,
stop him, Green Lantern and Tails.
Shigs, do you want to eat dinner anytime soon?
Yeah, we better keep it going.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to news discussion, since you guys just told me you have nothing else to say about the comic. Um, Evan Stanley has recently revealed that IDW Sonic is limited to one issue per month because of manpower limitations at SEGA. Specifically, they need people with specialized knowledge to be able to go through the comic book and make sure everything's kosher, and those people are occupied with like looking at game stuff and things like
Thank you,
that.
Ken Penders.
Hey,
um
no, I can't blame Ken Penders on this. Like, they're just treating the franchise different than
Well,
yeah,
they
there's
like
different
before.
brand management.
this is the kind of thing you gotta do if you want to make the comics kosher to the games. You've got to involve people who will make sure everything is consistent, and unfortunately, that will be a much more time consuming process than just sending it over to Sega of America and having someone who make sure it doesn't break any rules on a checklist or whatever they used to
Oh,
do.
we could just let it be its own thing, like every cartoon, anime, and movie they've had for them.
Well, that's just not what Sega wants to do these days, unfortunately. Um,
It's just
so
funny how
she's
much people still like anybody who has more power than IDW still just seems to ignore them and be like, "Oh, we're gonna do our own thing. Screw you and your
yeah, it is
restrictions."
apparently something that happened to Sonic Prime to a degree, although that did at least limit their ability to use Shadow the Hedgehog. My general theory is that, like, basically, the more the more lengthy and more expensive a production is, the less direct influence Sega has. Like, they have very very little influence on the movies.
Well, I think in regard to the larger bottleneck, like the thing I would still emphasize is like this was not nearly as big of a franchise prior to 2020. Like once 2020 hit,
That's true.
that's whenever things started to get a second wind and it really started to enter the mainstream and they really started moving in specific directions. Then we had Sonic Frontiers, which it did review great, but it is still a very well selling game. Shadow Generations was a very successful game. They're actually having people, come into the franchise that are new to it and are experiencing new things. You have people who are hitting a certain nostalgia age where they experienced Sonic when they were younger, and now it's coming back in vogue. And
And now
they,
Black Knight has to be the best thing ever.
dear
Yeah, pretty
God.
much a lot about the Sonic movies that they're extremely popular.
And hey, if you got popular in 2020, that might have been hard to staff up at that time for very contextual reasons.
Yeah, the pandemic. Um, but yeah, this was something that Stanley confirmed over at over on Twitter. As part of a larger discussion, and it's something I began to suspect, like I think just a couple months ago when like it clicked with me, like, oh yeah, the
Yeah, 'cause
reason why IDW is so limited must be because Sega has to go through everything, because I already know that, hey, they have to translate every single script into Japanese and send it over to Sonic Team. That's going to be time consuming in and of itself. So
meanwhile,
like,
there's
yeah,
2 to 3 Godzilla titles each month and then several Ninja Turtles titles.
yeah. Um, Godzilla apparently also has some restrictions, but they must be doing something different.
I
So
think the
moving,
restrictions are pretty dang minor.
I'm just
yeah,
it's the kind of thing that makes, like, having the restrictions simply for brand management stuff. That's I can get that to an extent. It probably doesn't require going all the way to Japan to have them read it, but it is the kind of thing that makes me wonder, like, and this is me wondering at like 30% confidence, but wondering, like, okay, are they actually gonna try to unify some stuff whenever they do whatever the heck it is that they're doing, between hiring on all of the writers and artists who did major IDW stuff and are, more intimately involved with the series? And hey, we have these weird characters that are, I don't know, we're hiding clues to them in past works and not explaining, and also we still haven't explained what the Sonic Frontiers logo is. Like, do they have this big plan for something? Cuz it sounds like they have a plan for something, but is this what it is?
uh, is what it is.
It is like, hey, is the comic book part of it? Is like, hey, no, the stuff
Oh,
that's
I'm
happening in the
sure it is.
comic actually going to feed into how we're going to
Oh,
approach the future of
okay,
what the
no,
series is defined with? Like, maybe
It's
not
it's
direct.
absolutely
yeah, I mean,
not.
we've had
Like,
mentions of Tangle and Styx in the Frontiers.
Like
We've had
like maybe not
Tangle and Whisper and Surge in the mobile games.
maybe not directly
Yep.
in the way that, like, oh no, you need to read the comic to understand, but maybe just in the way that, like, okay, we're using the comic to fully flesh out our world building for what we think the series is going to be. Like, it's non-zero. It's unlikely, but it's non-zero, and it would at least fit with a narrative of why they are going to manage it that thoroughly, I suppose.
my expectation is that Sonic Team just wants to be able to just grab anything from the comic book for a future game that they might want to grab, and the
Yeah, but
comic books will eventually just jump ahead once a new game comes out. Like
I,
maybe once the Frontiers 2 comes out, we'll finally get the comics between Frontiers 1 and 2.
I figure, sure, but, like, whenever heavy air quotes Frontiers 2 is a thing, is it gonna be, oh, the next Sonic game, or is it going to be, we have reinterpreted ways that we consider this world to function. We have moved
Hmm.
forward in some meaningful way. And that's what I'm thinking about. It's not like, oh, it's gonna cooperate and collaborate and it's just gonna be the next. It's like, is the future of the series a new generation as they're trying to pitch? Like, is that a thing? Is it, because it sounds like if it was a thing, these are the steps that you would take to get there. But is that just me looking at these and trying to find a pattern that doesn't exist? Or is it, no, they actually want to do something?
Hmm. And I think you're looking at this a little harder than you probably should.
That's my job here.
So, moving on. Uh, Sonic and Sonic and Like a Dragon Studios are short on staff, and so Sega is looking at hiring more. Um, so yeah, this kind of directly feeds into what Evan Stanley was saying, which is that Sega is trying to hire up for for some of their growing franchises.
Yeah, I
So,
I did the story
all
on
right, yeah,
The
Friends.
you covered
franchises
this.
we're
So
focused on.
why don't you lead us on this since you covered it?
Yeah. Hey, this is just something that that they said a bit in an investor Q&A. Number one, there are some aspects that are probably more important than others. The the takeaway is like, hey, we know these two franchises are getting bigger. We know Like a Dragon's getting building an audience that's, pretty reasonably sized and significant. We know Sonic has done the same over the last couple years, and to meet the staggering pace that they seem to want to continue to run those series with, they probably need more people to help make sure that happens, because effectively at this point, both are turning into annual series. Like, like a Dragon, we kind of have a sense of how it accomplishes that. It recycles a lot. Sonic kind of does it in a different ways. Like, it certainly does do some recycling. It goes to outside teams. It makes games of varying scopes. Although you could say the same thing about the Like a Dragon series as well. But even then, no matter what, like, you're going to hit a point where it's like, if you need to have output of a certain pace, you need to have people that can support that infrastructure. And it sounds like, you know, they need to build up to that.
Hmm.
The the weirder part of this story, though, is it wasn't asked about the investor did not ask it in the context of like, hey, you need more people for this. They asked it in like, hey, what's your focus for the studios? Are you considering M&A? And M&A is
Mergers
mergers
and
and
acquisitions.
acquisitions, which
Yeah.
is number one, that's red meat for an investor. Investors like to hear mergers and acquisitions. Mergers and acquisitions is basically sort of the code of, hey, we're getting bigger as a business, so we should. The one way that we show that we're getting bigger as a business is that we buy other businesses and we get even bigger. Infinite growth. Line always goes up all the time. And Sega kind of like, I don't know how seriously to take Sega's response, because they did recontextualize it as like, hey, we don't have a big priority on this. We just know that, like, hey, our teams for Sonic and our teams for Like a Dragon need bigger, and there's different ways that we could look into this, like hiring and M&A. So it's the kind of response that makes me think like, yes, they said M&A to a question that's asking about M&A, but also the question was kind of BS, and a lot of times answers in these investor Q&As are just kind of BS, not saying anything while trying to answer a question.
Yeah.
But Sega's in a weird spot to be doing M&A. They just bought a Rovio, and I don't think the Rovio has paid off, and we don't know if it will be paid off based on a future story that we will be talking about. But
Hmm.
but like, and they just had layoffs. So like, they just had some layoffs in Sega Europe. They had a big thing fail in Sega Europe. Sega Japan stuff kind of going strong, but they still have this other super game nonsense on the back burner. So it's the kind of thing where I'm sitting here like, I don't know where Sega's at in regard to this. And I don't think M&A is the answer, because we've all seen what's happened with M&A over the pandemic. The way that it just exploded, and now it turns out that sometimes the money's good, but then the money might not always be good. Maybe people will be going outside again, and we made a really stupid mistake buying all of these companies whenever money was cheap, and then money stopped being cheap. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Like, maybe we shouldn't have betted on people never being able to leave their homes.
like when
A lot of streaming companies found out about that.
yeah, it's the kind of thing where I don't know I don't know who Sega would acquire in this circumstance. Like, they just bought a new mobile dev, so they they have a mobile dev. They have a very good mobile dev as well that seems to be able to continue to maintain the games that they have. I don't know. Like, it's weird. It's weird. It's mentioned, but it's the kind of thing where it's like, yeah, it's mentioned. It's really stupid that it was mentioned, but should I actually take this seriously? And the answer is probably not.
Like, I don't
Probably
know.
not.
Like, I guess like one potential acquisition target could be like some small developer, like Naoto Oshima's developer. I forgot what they're
Oh
called.
dear
Or
God! Like,
Evening Star.
oh, I
You know,
was.
you wouldn't have to break the bank to get a dev like that.
The reason why I was first alerted to this is because this was brought up in another server, and one of the people I talked to who follows the industry real closely was like, "Yeah, the Monkey Paws version of this is if they buy Arzest," and I was like, "Oh God, that's the worst! Oh, that's the worst possible option." Oh lordy,
But what if they buy RSS and Evening Star?
they're not gonna buy Evening Star. What are they gonna do with Evening Star? They can't figure out
I
how to
don't
make a
know.
classic Sonic
Make
game.
um
Evening Star knows how to make a classic Sonic game, but
like
modern
but
Sonic
like
is. But Sonic as a franchise right now really isn't interested in doing a lot of things with classic Sonic. It tried and it was like, well, this didn't sell. I don't know what to do with it.
Well, like I don't know, with RSS you could probably just like use them for developer support or something.
Yeah, but it's like,
Like
oh yeah, Arzest. That's why Arzest exists. Arzest doesn't exist to make their own games or to have vision for what a game should be. They exist to be manpower that you can put on a project and be like, just get this done. Yuji Naka says one button. Everything's a button. Make his game. We had
I'm
to
thinking
remove
more
him from the project. Just finish making his game.
I mean, I'm thinking more along the lines of like the role that Monolith Soft sometimes plays in some
Oh,
of Nintendo's games. And that one developer Nintendo bought a
oh,
year or two ago.
like there's a
That
degree where like
expressly
I would
support.
almost yeah I would almost say like Retro Studios is more of that than Monolith. Monolith is like Nintendo's tech backbone. It's like, hey, do you need your open world to run at a frame rate greater than 2? Let's ask Monolith what we should be doing for this. Maybe they can get
R
us some tech.
RSS becomes Sega's tech backbone.
Arzest is nobody's tech backbone. Arzest is what if
Anyway.
we have no level design panache and you need 50 levels.
But anyway,
Paniche.
so is that all you have to say about this? Because I don't got much. I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that like I don't know, when they hire more people, that also means more people to get us more people up like the Sonic lore team or something.
I guess they said the phrase M&A, and we should probably laugh at that, but then also think like, probably not.
So moving on to something I am personally looking forward to, Sonic Dream Team is getting another update tomorrow. and so it's going to expand adventure mode with more levels, featuring Shadow, as well as new abilities, a new mission type, um, and I think that's it. Yeah.
You sound
So
very excited for it.
well, I thought I had the story up on my iPad and I didn't.
Yeah, they're
But
gonna have adventure mode stuff. They're gonna have Shadow stuff. They're gonna get like Shadow doesn't really have stages that are for him. He had a tutorial.
well, he has stages in Tails Challenge
Yeah,
built
yeah,
specifically around his abilities.
yeah.
Um, and so like presumably these new adventure stages will be more of that. Hopefully there'll be a little more to those levels and the setting especially. Um, because at the moment, like Tails Challenge levels, they're all like built around like prefabricated assets that you stick together. Um, and it sounds like the central goal of this new adventure is to destroy a nightmarish corruption. In the screenshot, it shows a thing with like giant eyes surrounding the level and stuff. So I'm guessing, I don't know if this means we're going to be getting a new boss fight or something, but I'm guessing that this nightmare thing is going to be the central plot of this.
Oh, but I bet we'll have cutscenes that don't animate.
Probably. Like is this a free update for an Apple Arcade game?
I mean, the main cutscenes were like that. They don't update. They
Yeah,
don't animate.
I know.
They just posed their 3D models in certain positions and made comic panels out of that.
There were a couple that were animated, but not many. But like my point still stands that this is an Apple Arcade game.
Sure.
But anyway, so like so I really enjoyed Shadow's levels. Once I got a handle on his abilities, I really his levels kind of became a highlight for me in Tails Challenge. And the only real downside for me has been the fact that I kind of lost my whole save file for Sonic Dream Team back in January. And so I had to not just replay through the whole campaign, which was just a couple of hours. I've also had to redo all of Tails Challenge, which means playing through all of those levels I've already played through a bunch more.
So basically
I've gotten a little sick of it.
So you felt the hey, collect so many orbs even harder than I did.
Well, like for me, it's just look. I need footage. I need to be able to collect footage on new updates and stuff for this game, and so I need to
Why do you
spend the
think I
next few
went back
months
to
going
it?
through all this again.
What do you think I was doing going back to it?
Well, yeah, but you're just playing campaign mode. That's nothing compared to Tails challenges.
That's true. I have not played Tails Challenge. I have not been through the hell that you seem to imply that it is.
Well, it's only a hell if you've already beaten it once and you have to go back and do it again. Because there's a lot of content. Because there's a lot of daily levels that this thing cycles through, and so it remained relatively fresh for me the first time. But it's the second time that kind of got to me a little bit. I'm being much more careful with my save file now to make sure it doesn't get thrown out by Apple's stupid cloud stuff again. But regardless, I'm looking forward to these levels because I really enjoy using Shadow's new abilities, and I'll get to check them out tomorrow. And my first goal will be to get footage of them and put them up on our YouTube. So I guess if you don't have access to the game, just keep an eye out for that.
But it's not the only mobile game that's getting an update.
Are you sure? I don't know any of the mobile games getting updates.
There's an update on the way. Sometime in May, probably. We think.
Sonic Rumble.
Hopefully.
Rumble. You covered a Rovio interview for Sonic Rumble.
Yeah, I covered a Rovio interview. Pocket Gamer, they were talking to one of the Rovio employees, basically the head of their beacon platform growth. I don't know if that means beacon platform on the whole or just like, I don't know, find new clients or find new purposes for this or something. But they talked to Veli Cavejo. I probably mispronounced that, and if I did, I apologize. And they basically just highlighted a lot of the reasons why they were going to delay it, and a lot of those reasons line up with the things that they said in their roadmap. It's like, hey, we're going to add this extra mode, Quick Rumble, that's basically like, hey, if you want to get in a short game, you can get in a short game. You don't have to go through the whole, what is it, like 15 minutes of a full round or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't say 15 minutes, probably closer to 10.
Okay, yeah.
But
But if you just want a quick hit, you can do that. They're pushing for that. They are looking for some like social aspects of it to kind of build into it. And That's basically other than that, like optimization, like just making sure it runs on lower level devices, which like if I was acting in the capacity of a consultant and didn't really have a lot to say on the on the state of a game, then those are the things that I would probably say is like,
Yeah.
I don't know, get you in and out faster, make sure it runs better, and I don't know, do social stuff. So
So it sounds like the delay, if we take this what this guy's saying at face value,
yeah.
the delay would be is just caused by them polishing the game,
And there
essentially.
is the bigger aspect of like, okay, how are they implementing the character abilities? Because that's probably the biggest inclusion or biggest thing that would impact gameplay in these updates is if the characters are no longer just skins for one another, but if they actually have a unique ability.
That's 23 unique abilities, by the way.
It sure is. And like unless they somehow group those up or together, like that's not a small undertaking, especially to balance around. But yeah,
Oh,
I don't know. Do you think is it just me or are people really weird about this game's delay?
people are really weird about this game's delay, but they were just as weird about Sonic Prime not getting any kind of trailer for a long time and getting and essentially being delayed, the Knuckles series being delayed. It's just how people are on the internet.
Yeah, but it was weird to the extent that like Dread was being weird about it, and he will get weird about it, but he doesn't get weird about this kind of thing very often. Like I don't look at a delay for this game and think, oh, it's in trouble. No, I look at the pre-registration numbers and go like, oh, this thing might be in trouble. Like that's the
Yeah.
data that I'm looking at and thinking like this thing
It's
might not be doing
it's
what it
the
might need to do.
pre-registration numbers combined with the delay is what makes me wonder is something happening here.
What's happening is I guess like they're getting the advice or the management from Rovio making the suggestions of like, hey, this might need to change in order for it to hit, but we're still
I
talking
do
about
believe that this game was in development way before they
yes.
actually acquired Rovio.
Yeah,
And
Rovio
so
came onto it. It did not start as a Rovio
it could just be
collaboration.
the Rovio and the process of Rovio coming in that caused them to delay plans. Because
Yeah.
originally, like this game was rumored to be coming out in like the summer of last year, and then that became like the closed beta. Um, then of course we finally got like a limited rollout in August.
I mean, who
Uh,
knows how old that frickin' Sonic Toy Party trailer is by the time we got it.
Yeah. Well, that was like apparently that was like a like alpha footage or something from a year before we got it.
Oh, I
Like it
believe
was a
that.
while
I
ago.
believe that 100%. Like that's the kind of thing that you pitch internally. That's not the kind of thing that like, no, this is a finalized name and graphic for it. Which is weird whenever people were again being real weird and not understanding like, of course this is a placeholder, people. What did you think it was?
I'm surprised people weren't weird about the Crossworlds character renders, which were obvious placeholders.
Eh, some were. You saw the conversations in our staff channel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well, I was
some were.
expecting more then. I was
Uh,
expecting more.
Perhaps I was also expecting more, but there wasn't none. Like there's to me there's reason to be concerned about Sonic Rumble, but like if they in the current mobile game environment, if this thing is going to hit at all, it needs to hit right at launch because if it doesn't get that good early word of mouth, then what do you got? There are very
Yeah,
few
and
games that
that's
can.
probably an argument for like delaying this thing and
Yeah.
delaying this thing until you are 100% sure you have everything balanced properly.
Yeah, or at least you have the hook. Like if you have the hook to actually get people in to be able to get people in to play this game and then convert some of those into paying players, like that's what you need. You need to have that good word of mouth to make sure people want to play the game. So,
Yeah, and it's like I do find the game to be very addictive. Like when it comes to Dash, Dash is like a fun little arcade game that I don't mind popping in every now and then.
Dash is a
Forces,
game
I
that, yeah.
mostly just keep up with that for the characters. What were you saying?
I was gonna say Dash is a game that was released in like what 2012, and it feels like a game that was released in 2012.
Yeah.
Just in its scope, like it's
Yeah,
still
it's a very limited game, but it's a limited game that kind of has some arcadiness that can get me addicted for like a few days, and then I'm done. But Rumble is a game I really feel like I could come back to it pretty regularly.
like I am excited for Rumble. I'm excited to try Rumble. There's been multiple times when I've been like, I could probably install that somehow. Am
And
I
you
gonna?
now have.
No, I haven't yet.
Wait, you haven't?
No, I found an APK and I found ways to get music from that APK, and I'm digging the soundtrack. The soundtrack kicks ass. Like, it's amazing. But I haven't actually played the game or started up or put it on any devices yet, just because, I don't know, anxiety. I'm like, I got an APK off the internet. Should I put that APK on my device? The answer is yeah, I probably should. It's probably fine, but also I got to do that work to do it. Am I gonna do that work?
I mean,
Maybe
you could
eventually.
just do what I did and just make that account in Australia.
I don't wanna. I don't want to make another account. If I gotta make another
Come
account,
on,
no,
it's easy.
I haven't even made a Sega account. Like, I'm not gonna make another account for this. Like, no, I'm not making another Google account. I have 4 Google email accounts as it is. They don't need me to make another.
Well, you can always make a Yahoo account.
I'm not making a Yahoo account. What am I, a caveman?
I'm just saying, if you have enough, if you think you have too many Googles, there's always Yahoo.
I could make a Microsoft account before I would make a Yahoo account.
Shigs, are you alive?
Yes, I'm here.
You've not said a word.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go through all that. I'm just gonna wait for the game to come out. I don't need to be putting through any kind of
Be
what do they
nice.
call that when you could
Be nice. The man is food deprived. Lex Luthor stole his 40 cakes.
Well, the good news is we are skipping IDW discussion tonight, so this is the
talked
last
about a
thing.
comic. We talked about a comic.
Yeah, Sonic still has the same thing. Well, yeah, I know he's not a cop, but he could have done something about Clutch, arresting him or something.
No, but no. Did you not see Sonic Rumble? Sonic is a cop now. ACAB, and Sonic's one of them.
Well, he had a little kid's arcade game where he is a cop.
People are saying it's a reference to that. It's almost, but I don't think it is. I don't know.
It's not a reference, but also I don't
VPN
care.
was the word I was looking for. VPN for. I'm not going to do a VPN for Sonic Rumble. I could just wait 2 months for it to come out.
You don't have to do a VPN for Sonic Rumble. You just have to make an Australian account.
Cool.
Yeah, but you have to have that on your phone. How do you do that?
You just log out of your regular account and log into your Australian account.
Well, number one. You're talking about Apple devices. Do you own an Apple device, Shigs?
No, I own a Google.
There you go. It's going to be a completely different.
It's probably even easier for you.
It probably is easier, but are you going to do it? Are you going to mess with it? Yeah, me.
No.
I might, but I haven't yet because I don't know.
I would encourage both of you to, so that we can finally talk about how much you either hate or enjoy the game.
Yeah, you sure would. You sure would, wouldn't you? You sure would do that. Hey!
But anyway, I think that will be enough for tonight. Sounds like GX is about to wrap us up.
Indeed. All our opinions are our own, especially mine. But the things we do are under the banner of Sonic Stadium over at sonicstadium.org. We are one of the internet's longest running Sonic fan communities, still going strong after more than between 20 and 25 years, I think.
I'm pretty sure it's 25 years. Yeah, we started in 2000.
Yeah, I think it's that. We got great stuff on the site. We got news reporting, including all the stuff that we talked about here, and some stuff we didn't talk about, like Sonic jumping into the Japanese digital art magazine scene with CG World, where they talk about, hey, Sonic's made a CG, and doesn't he look cool? And sometimes he does. And over in the forums, we're running Sonic Madness, which spiritually following along with the various March Madness takes that I think have been ongoing since like TSSZ imploded or something. And yeah, you can vote in a popularity contest for your favorite Sonic games, and that's going on over there.
Yay.
And hey, we're working to start the next season of Sega Sonic Racing, Sega Sonic Radio. It's 11 o'clock. Sometime in April. April's our target right now. I just have a couple more things to build out assets for and update, and we'll be golden.
And then GX just has to make a whole rhythm game.
Yep. Hey, once again, that website is sonicstadium.org, and the Twitter and Blue Sky are... The Twitter's Sonic Stadium. The Blue Sky is Sonic... I think it's just sonicstadium.org. I think that's actually what our Blue Sky is. It's cool. It doesn't even have...
Blue Sky, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it even has the .bluesky.social or anything. I think it's just at sonicstadium.org. It's awesome.
Yeah,
and
Red did good there.
YouTube Sonic Stadium. YouTube is also Sega Sonic Radio. Go check them out. And with that, Shigs is going to hunt down Lex Luthor and devour 40 cakes.
Right.
Peace all.
See you later.
See you later.
Bye.